If you've spent any time in the pinball community on social media, you're bound to come across a character known as the wife, or sometimes simply wife. And to get to the bottom of who the wife is, I had some questions. Wife, did you buy another pinball machine today? I won it in a giveaway. I got a good deal on it. It was an accident. You look very pretty today. Question 1. Who is the wife? The wife is a stock character in the pinball community who is married to and cohabitates with married male pinball collectors. Dear wife, since I give you full access to the walk-in closet and the master bath for all your cosmetics, I will be taking up a portion of the living room for Pokemon Pinball. Love you, your husband. P.S. I will catch 'em all, but never forget who I caught first. Love you. The wife can be found on any social media page where there's pinball enthusiast discussion. Anecdotally, she seems to be the most common on Facebook, mostly in Facebook groups, but she can be found on Reddit r/pinball, on YouTube comments, and on the pinball discussion forums on Pinside. Wife, how many pinball machines do you need? Me, all of them. Wife, looks irritated. Me, quietly. Thinking emoji thinks, quote, she'll never understand, unquote. 3 cry rolling on the floor laughing emojis. The one distinctive trait to the wife is that she is somewhat opposed to the poster buying and acquiring more pinball machines than they already have. The issue often has to do with price, but it mostly seems to be about how much space they take up and where they're placed in the house. How do I tell the wife that the dining table has to go? Picture of 6 pinball machines, a tiny minuscule dining table to the right of them. The poster designed to be a springboard for engagement in the form of comments, playfully inviting other married men to join in with their own suggestions on how to navigate their relationship with the wife in order to achieve the ultimate goal of owning even more pinball machines. These posts range from playful, this magic wand can turn this collection of 4 pinball machines in a room into this, an empty room with no pinball machines. Guess what game is being shopped today? And don't tell the wife I'm using the dishwasher again to clean pinball parts. To deceitful, when your wife asks how much the new pinball machine costs. Man on The Price is Right, bidding $1. To, at times, violent. Man, what would make you happy? Woman, sell the pins. Photo 2, man with leg extended having just kicked woman off cliff to her almost certain death. Question 2, what is the wife? It is no secret that pinball is a male-dominated hobby, and that pinball manufacturers catered to men, with game themes like Playboy, WrestleMania, and Rush. And whether you are at the pinball arcades of the past or the pinball shows of today, it wouldn't take you long to notice a significant gender imbalance in the pinball hobby. It's also no secret that in developed countries, married men make significantly more income than single men and both single and married women. And it's not even close. As such, wife posting is, above all else, a ritual of male bonding. These posts designed to get a bunch of men commenting and joining in on the fun aren't too much different than the kind of discussion you'd find on the golf course or on the fishing boat, a place where a bunch of men go to hang out with the guys. I asked the wife, what do you want to do after dinner? She says, I figured we'd clean that Comet you just picked up and see if we can get it working. Spoiled. Sounds like a keeper. And the wife too, LOL. Those words are like foreplay for pinball enthusiast. Oh, a keeper for sure. I just came here to day that too. Thought you were gonna say she wanted to ride the Comet.
Laughing emoji. Sounds like she might be setting you up for another surprise. So, you have a unicorn at home? The W word is the biggest lie known to man, we. Are you sure that's the same comet you're thinking of? Rolling on the floor, crying, laughing emoji. She is a keeper, living the charmed life. Does she have a sister? LOL, she's a keeper, my kind of lady. You are living the life, sir. Enjoy. Good wife, keeper. That's how you get pregnant. Hashtag keeper. Image caption, that's a keeper.
All right, so let me explain. Keeper is a fishing term. When you're fishing, if you get a fish that's too small, you'll probably just throw it back in the water. But if you get a big fish that you might want to eat or put on your wall, well, that's a fish you would keep. And that kind of fish has been nicknamed a keeper. The humor here comes from the inherent absurdity of applying this term to one spouse. Who would go through all the trouble to get a marriage contract and cohabitate with someone for years if you weren't planning on keeping them? Then there's a few jokes about the comet. Now, let me explain that one. There are two different wooden roller coasters named Comet. One resides at Six Flags Great Escape, and the other resides at Hershey Park. The joke here is that the poster may have been referring to the Comet, which was built in 1948 and resides in upstate New York, while the wife may have been thinking of Comet, which was built in 1946 and resides in eastern Pennsylvania.
I produced this using several AI products last December and presented it Xmas Day in a bid to gain my wife's approval for a fourth pinball machine. Her phrase was always, quote, 3 is sufficient, unquote. She was impressed, but she didn't relent. Until recently. Wink emoji. If you have two M30s, take a look. Hope you find it funny.
Oh boy, I hope we find it funny.
But I saw this gem at Phil's web store, a shiny machine I just can't ignore. Called my wife in, thought she'd be on board, but she shot me down with just one word. She said 3 is sufficient, you got more than enough. We don't need another, our space is too stuffed. Where would you put it? Right in front of the door. But honey, 3's too few, I just need one more. One more, I said this one's rare and it's pinball gold, worth every penny. Surprised it's not sold, but she just shook her head and closed the door, saying 3 is sufficient, you don't need one more. 3 is sufficient, you got more than enough. We don't need another, our space is too stuffed. You run out of quarters, we'll end up poor. Honey, 3 looks odd, I just need one more. She says it's obsession, she says it's a phase, but I see that play field and I'm lost in a haze. I tell her it's art, I tell her it's fun, I tell her one last one, and then I'm done.
Perfect. 0 notes. Question 3. When is the wife? To make things very brief, pinball machine ownership in the home was exceedingly rare up until the very end of the 1990s. Operators sold their games for quite low prices into a new market of enthusiastic home collectors. Prices remained very low, and the barrier to entry was relatively low. As access to the internet increased, people suddenly had lots of access to specialized resources like manuals, game parts, and a community of people eager to share tips on how to repair and restore pinball machines. In this first quarter of the 21st century, pinball home ownership has become way more commonplace, which is fantastic news for me because for the past 8 years, my career has involved the development of brand new pinball machines, which are mostly being sold directly into homes. I don't want anyone not buying pinball machines. Cram as many of these things into your home as possible, at least as far as me and my wallet are concerned. The problem though is the homes we live in certainly weren't designed for people to stash and collect several pinball machines.
I say I have room for 3 more. The wife says I have to get rid of one to get another. Apparently, the dogs have priority on the empty space, trying to decide which one to let go. P.S. Tried letting go of a wife. First marriage. I'm gonna keep this one. Far too expensive, and this one likes pinball. 102 comments. In the 19th century, home designs changed around the popularization of the indoor water closet. By the end of the 20th century, the vast majority of new houses were built with the attached two-car garage. The fact that we've accepted putting these giant windowless rooms right in the front of our home just so our cars can be closer to us and we're not constantly screaming about how ugly these things are and how they've ruined the look of houses permanently is nothing short of a miracle. So in the 21st century, I predict that we will finally solve the problem of how every man, woman, and child can live in a home that has, let's say, a dozen or more pinball machines. Shouldn't be too hard. Question 4. Where is the wife? Although the wife is framed in most of these posts as having arbitrary and sometimes ridiculous suggestions on where to put pinball machines in the house, I would really like to think that most people genuinely care about the spaces they occupy. It's exceedingly rare for people to start commingling their pinball machines with the couch, the television, the dining room table, the refrigerator, the stove, the bathtub, or the bed. Pinball machines really need their own defined space, but space is often precious in a home. Just this morning, as I was mindlessly watching reels in bed, I came across the comedian, actor, and producer David Cross giving someone a house tour.
Where my wife sleeps.
You guys have separate bedrooms?
Yeah, I don't know if that matters to the report.
Cross's beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn was incredibly spacious for New York City, but I noticed as he gave a tour of his office that he had a single Monster Bash pinball machine in there. Now, although he's defined his office as his space with his collection and his memorabilia, the game looks awkward because it's placed up in front of a window with the left side of the game parallel to the wall. Real Housewives of Orange County star Heather Dubrow proudly gave us a house tour on YouTube, and in the basement, they've built a #play game room. In one of the corridors, there's a Star Wars Pro pinball machine next to an arcade basketball game. Her #playroom really doesn't work as a fun space. Let's compare this space to the winners for the Stern Game Room of the Month contest. These rows of pinball machines immediately look way better, way more curated, way more intentional than anything these celebrities have. Well, except for this one with the out-of-place chandelier hanging right above all the pinball machines. I'm particularly fond of this one with the glowing man cave sign above 4 women playing pinball. And even in the case where there's just one pinball machine, there are intentional choices about wall art and wallpaper and carpeting and accessories that make it look like it's part of the room. And it's all these choices, the intentional design of the space, that can really make your pinball collection become much more welcoming and inviting both to you and your spouse and your friends and family who come over to play your games. Question 5. Why is the wife? Wife posts represent a spectrum of ideas. Some are plainly misogynistic. Daughter, I really want a pinball machine. Dad, we can't afford that right now. Daughter, okay then, I think it's time for me to start dating. Dad, photo of a Stern pinball machine in box strapped in the back of a pickup truck. Others are boring, warmed over the Lockhorns type jokes. Look at you, folding laundry. And last night it was the dishes. Just exactly what part of no, you're not buying a $7,000 pinball machine don't you understand? And lots of them don't really make sense. Babe, I only posted, quote, where are all the pinball arcades near the wedding venue so I can stay away from that area. I think a significant amount of people who post about the wife are really just using her as a character that's a stand-in for their conscience. Sure, it's expected that the marketing for a brand new pinball machine is going to inspire you to want to pull out the credit card and plop down $13,000 for a brand new limited edition game. That's the point of the marketing. That's the impulse behind the impulse buy. But as anyone starts to interrogate that impulse, they may realize that there are things in their life that are more important and more valuable to them than buying another pinball machine sight unseen. Yeah, in many of these cases, these guys are probably married. Maybe they're the one a little more interested in the pinball hobby than their spouse, and maybe they've initiated the conversation about buying another pinball machine before and had to deal with the answer being no. For some people, maybe that's a little embarrassing and they'd rather externalize that to the stubborn, uninterested wife rather than the mostly supportive partner who made a lot of good points in their discussion. That's a generous reading and one that doesn't always apply. There are a significant amount of couples who have horrible communication around things like finances, their personal space, their interests, their goals, their responsibilities and roles in a relationship. A lot of the people we see here might not be even close to being on the same page with their wife when it comes to many things, not least of which is owning pinball machines. Combine that with this pinball community and the nature of social media that is constantly showing you these people who have been collecting pinball machines for years and years and have these beautiful, spectacular, enviable game rooms, and thou shalt not covet his neighbor's pinball machines becomes a difficult commandment to uphold. Question 6. How do we destroy the wife? I'm gonna say something that might completely shock you. I don't think that 7 comments calling someone's wife a keeper on a post they made is particularly funny. In fact, I perceive it as a significantly negative aspect of participation in the pinball community. For people in the "they're just jokes" crowd, reminder, 7 keeper comments. It wasn't 1, it was the comment section was there. 6 more people saw the first post and said, you know what, I'm gonna say it too. People in the lighten up and just take a joke crowd may not remember that during the stay-at-home period of the pandemic, the tone of wife posting increased from a somewhat ignorable low drone to a shrieking, unavoidable, and incessant whine. People were stuck at home, unable to go to their normal pinball locations. And on the internet, they were rapidly watching used game prices climb. And month after month, they could not stop blaming the wife over it. Told my wife, I'm gonna buy pinball machines with the savings to hedge against inflation. Judging by the look on her face, she doesn't agree. Eventually, the moderators of Pinball Enthusiast, which had become wife posting central, had to step in. Guys, jokes about your wife selling your games alienate and insult the awesome pinball partners in this community who we love. Stop it or find another community. The MGMT management. And before comments had to be turned off on that post, people who defended the act of wife posting had to get a word in. Some people just don't know how to take a joke. There are sayings like that in every hobby. Get over it. Move along. These are not the droids you are looking for. Yup, I find these funny also. They are jokes. Kick me for having a sense of humor if that's what needs to be done, but really, eye-rolling emoji. As a pinball enthusiast, I love these memes. I usually send them to my wife, who laughs at them also. Then, I have another machine follow me home, and we joke about the jokes. So, I'll tell you what, I decided to save the best, funniest wife post for last, and you tell me, is this kind of thing good for pinball or not? This kind of don't tell the wife crap, middle-aged man-child humor is pervasive in every hobby. It's sexist and lame. It's even lamer and more cringe in a hobby where these middle-aged man-children are buying multiple $10,000 toys. Well, let me ask you a question. I have a friend who loves his wife and married her when they were younger together. Now, they have 2 kids and have been married for over a decade. She is the type of wife that gets on him about any hobby, rolls her eyes, argues about it, tells him he's wasting his money. They aren't splitting finances, mind you. He pays for most things for them and the kids. What's he supposed to do about it? Divorce? Not do any hobbies? Get at every time he wants to spend money on something he wants to try out? Sometimes not to your wife about money, your hobbies, or what went on that day at work is the best way to just keep everyone happy and stable. If you loved life even a little bit, you would know that. Here's my problem with you. You don't realize that real life happens. Not everything is this rosy peach gold dream world you think you live in. Try being in a relationship for over 10 years and then talk. You have a wife that shares your exact same hobbies? Well, good for you. I'm glad you can look down on others who have wives that don't and who openly criticize their husbands for doing something they don't feel is, quote, attractive or, quote, interesting in that moment. How would this go if you loved your wife but she hated pinball? Would you divorce or quit the hobby or what? Get off your high horse LMAO. Subscribe for more pinball videos.